right, everybody. Welcome to a more excellent conversation on finance part two. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Let's get straight into it. All right. So, last time we were talking about finances, we were talking about the Dave Ramsey baby steps. We were talking about baby step zero, which was budgeting. Then we talked about baby step one, which was saving $1,000 in an emergency fund or a temporary emergency fund. And then number two was paying off all debt, car, credit card, any loans that you have, paying it all off. All right, all loans except home loans. Baby step number three is having a fully funded emergency fund. So, a fully funded emergency fund is where you have 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses. All right, so your expenses can be something like how much you pay for rent, how much your food costs for the month. An expense is not a Netflix subscription. Expenses are mostly necessities. So Hulu is not a necessity. All right, guys, let's get into it. You can build on your $1,000 emergency fund and fully fund it in this baby step three. So you can start with your $1,000 if you haven't spent it for an emergency. And this step is so important to ensure security because it's not if you have an emergency, it's when you have an emergency that you have this money readily available to help you out of that situation. All right, so let's get into it. Where can we put our money once we have our 3 to 6 months worth of expenses? What account should we put our money in? Should it just be a normal traditional savings account with one of our banks that we know? That's a possibility, but I highly recommend having a high yield savings account to put your fully funded emergency fund. And the reason is, on average, national banks or regular banks have a APY or annual percentage yield of 0.39%. And just to put that into perspective, if you had $5,000 in a savings account with 0.39% in your APY, you would get a return of $19.50 for that year. But if you had your money in a high yielding savings account with an APY of 4.5, then you would get a return of $225 on that $5,000 sitting in the savings account. And I don't know about you, but I would much rather take home the 200 extra dollars instead of just measly 19 bucks for that $5,000 sitting and doing nothing. So what is it? Where can we get this high yielding savings account? What are some options that we have? I know for people who love traditional banks, Capital One has a really good high yielding savings account with a high APY, but a lot of our banks with high yielding APYs are usually online banks. If you don't feel comfortable with using an online bank, I completely respect it. I highly suggest that you look into a traditional bank that has a high yielding savings account so your money gets to make money. That's how people become successful. All right. Personally, my wife and I, we have a online bank. We use Ally. And like I always say, please do your own research. Please research which banks you feel would be most compatible with you. If you do have an online bank like my wife and I do with Ally, I've been using Ally personally for about 5 years. I feel very comfortable with them. They're easy to contact. These are some things that you want in your high yielding savings account. If you do decide to go with the online bank, you want there to be communication whenever you can because you want this money to be super liquid for when the emergency comes. Another thing I would suggest if you're using an online bank, that if they have a bank card that you can simply just bring out and tap, or you take money out from the ATM, it has no charging fee. I would suggest you look into banks that offer those suggestions. Like I said, Ally is the one that we use. If you do your research and you're really into Ally, I suggest you read the reviews on Ally High Yield Savings Account. You also read the different type of high yielding savings account they have and really take your time with this big decision when you get to baby step number three. So a lot of the time, the reason that this step is so important is not only does it ensure safety and make sure that we're fully covered when we do have an emergency, it also gives us peace of mind. So while you're in this process of building wealth, you have this net or safety net that you can rely on when things go wrong. As you grow in your financial journey, the more things that you acquire, like for example, if you buy a new car or if you buy a condo or a home, you would increase this 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, because when something goes wrong with one of these things with a higher asset value or a higher price tag, you will need more money in your expenses to cover that. For example, if you get a house and your roof is messed up and you need to pay $20,000 on a house right away, you want to increase how much your 3 to 6 months expenses can go. Baby step number 4, we're making it through the list. Baby step number 4 is concern about retirement. It's saving 15% of your yearly income into your retirement accounts. Now, there are several ways to do this, but the best Dave Ramsey recommended ways is to see if your company has a 401k. If you are self employed, there's something called an IRA or individual investment account, right? And I know a lot of people are not concerned about retirement. They're very young. They're saying, why do I need to think about retirement right now? I'm in my 20s. I'm in my 20s as well, and I'm thinking about retirement heavily. And the reason is I'm reminded of this beautiful Bible verse. It's Proverbs 21, verse 5, and it reads, "The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty." So here we see that planning is wise. It's okay to take control of your finances and set yourself up for success. Let's talk about a quick study about retirement and how right now the nation is viewing retirement. So, according to Northwestern Mutual Planning and Progress Study of 2023, I got this study from Investopedia. I love Investopedia. I suggest you check that out for your investing needs, your saving needs. It breaks down terminology. For example, you could just look up stocks. It'll break down what stocks mean, how people use stocks, and then it recommends words that are associated with the original word you looked up. And I really have grown to rely on and trust the site. It's just an information site. But as I was saying, with the study in 2023 by Northwestern Mutual Planning and Progress, the majority of adults, about 52%, believe that they will be prepared for retirement. Just about half. But many are worried that they won't be, according to the survey. So, among those surveyed, 55% of Generation X felt ready for retirement, 48% of baby boomers felt ready for retirement, 46% of millennials, 35% of Generation Z. So, as the generations go by, people are feeling less and less and less secure about retirement. And personally, I think this is due. I don't want to blame Drake, but I kind of blame Drake. The YOLO lifestyle. Everyone's just living. Do you enjoy the moment? Don't worry about anything else. But like we just read in the proverb, it's wise to plan. So let's plan and get our money intact and break it down. Just to paint a clearer picture of investment with a hypothetical income, if you made an income of about $80,000 a year, you would need a retirement nest egg, which is just how much money you have in totality to retire. It would be about $2 million if you wanted to live a comfortable lifestyle of continuously having that $80,000 a year lifestyle. You need that $2 million in your nest egg. And that strategy is just based off of whether how inflation goes and if the investments that you have a return rate of at least 5%. And depending on where you invest, if you invest in something called ETFs, which are exchange trade funds, whether you invest in mutual funds, most of these investment profiles have a 5% interest or higher. Again, I'm not a professional. I ask that you either sit down with a professional. Dave Ramsey suggests that you go to ramseysolutions.com and you try to sit down with what they call a SmartVestor Pro if you're at this baby step, and you sit down with somebody who really has a degree in this and has been doing it for years. But it's just assuming that you're getting a 5% return on your money as well. So most people are working well into their 60s and 70s. really struggling with retirement, really feeling insecure about where they can be, if they can even retire, or whether they even have enough money to sustain any type of lifestyle during their retirement. But Dave Ramsey says you should be working only if you're 65 plus, you should only be working if you love what you do or if you want to. Right after 65, we should have our finances set up for success and set up for retirement, and working should just be a plus, not a necessity. So, how can we prepare for retirement effectively? We've been doing all this talk about why it's important, and now how can we do it? The first thing that we can do is look at baby step number 4, which now we have the model of 15%. Now we need to allocate that 15% in different ways. One way we can allocate our money is if our company has a 401k plan. All right. If your company has a 401k plan, some companies offer something called a match. So they match the amount up to a certain percentage. For example, my company, they match up to 3%. So the 3% of my income that I invest in retirement, my company matches that 3%. But up to 5%, they match half. I personally invested 4% in my company and they matched 3.5% of my income per paycheck towards retirement in my 401k. If your company has a match that, and it depends on how high their match goes, you want to invest as much as your company matches. If you're at baby step number 4, if you're not at baby step number 4, you need to work on whatever baby step that you're on. All right. This is for specifically friends who already paid off debt, already have their emergency fund ready, and now are ready to allocate their money into retirement. All right. So you should invest up to where your company matches. So if your company has matches up to 15%, you could put all that money theoretically into the 401k and get that 15% free money. Dave Ramsey calls it free money from your company. So now you're both matching 15%. But keep in mind, what your company matches does not count towards your yearly 15% of retirement. Just keep that in mind. So if you put 3% and your company matches 3%, that's not a total of 6% of your 15% of retirement. It's not it. You only invested 3% of your personal income, and now you have 12% to allocate in another area. And now let's talk about where else you could put that money if your company doesn't match all the way up to that 15%. Another place where you could put your money for retirement is called an IRA, or individual retirement account. Now, IRAs can come traditional IRA, which I personally wouldn't recommend, or a Roth IRA. And I would recommend a Roth IRA. And I say that because Roth is a tax advantage retirement account, meaning you get taxed with the money you put into that account and not the money that you take out. And if you are under the age of 50, you're able to contribute $7,000 a year into your Roth IRA. If you are over 50, you have this catch up method where you're able to invest $8,000 a year into your Roth IRA. And you only are taxed on that $7,000 or $8,000 that you put in. When you take your money out for retirement after you're 60 plus, you're able to take that money out tax free. Age that you're able to take out your IRA without a tax penalty is 59 and a half. So there are different types of companies that offer the IRA that I invest in is a Roth IRA with Vanguard. I really enjoy the app. Vanguard is a well-known company, but again, please do your own research. Your boy is not a professional. It's something I just am really passionate about. Contributing that $7,000 or $8,000 into your IRA, depending on how much your yearly income is. If you still haven't hit that 15% mark with investing with your match with your company and investing the $7,000 or $8,000 a year in your IRA, if you're not at that 15% mark with your retirement yearly, then you can pour back the rest of the percentage back into your 401k. All right. And that's how we get to our 15% into our retirement account and completing baby step number four. And here's the Dave Ramsey model for retirement accounts when it comes to tax advantage accounts. So Dave Ramsey says match is number one, second would be Roth, and then third would be traditional. The reason traditional is at the end is because a retirement account, you pay for taxes on the back end. So you put your money in tax free, but when you take out your money for retirement, you have to pay taxes on the money you take out. And since at times taxes are taken out at a rate of percentage, if you have a large amount of money when you take out retirement, let's spitball the number of 500,000, you'll have to pay whatever percent. Let's just throw another number out there. 3% of 500,000. And 3% of 500,000 is $15,000. So you'll be paying $15,000 in taxes. And that's a lot of money. I'd rather get taxed on the money that I put in personally. Maybe step number five is to save for your children's college fund. So if you notice, baby step number three covers emergencies, baby step number four covers retirement, baby step number five covers your children's college funds. These are three major concerns of I would say, most households across America, and I would say even across the world. We're worried about what happens if something goes wrong. We're worried about retirement, and we're worried about the future of our kids. So the account that Dave Ramsey recommends to invest in for your children's college fund is called a 529 college savings plan. He also encourages looking into education savings accounts, or ESAs. And again, this is where I say you got to go and do your research to know what you're talking about, to know what type of accounts you want to invest in, to see if they have any tax advantage options, to see how much per month you can contribute. And they also have calculators to see if you invested $10 a month, this is how much they would be able to use to pay for college. But also keep in mind, if you want your child to go to Yale, I highly respect it, but your child doesn't need $400,000 in a college fund. All right. Hopefully, there are other alternatives. Um, Dave Ramsey had a call where one of his callers was concerned that they had put too much money away in their 529 and that their child got almost a full ride in school. But Dave Ramsey went through a bunch of different terminologies. But basically, there's another tax advantage or another way where if your child gets scholarships and you already have a college fund for them, they're able to write off, or you're able to get back the money they get in scholarships. And I would suggest you look into that as well. Personally, I don't have children yet, but I'm excited to get to baby step number five. Step number six is paying off your home early. The reason that Dave Ramsey recommends paying your home off early, I know a lot of the times the home is probably the biggest purchase that most of us will ever make in our lives, usually over $300,000 plus, for some people over $100,000. But paying it off faster will also eliminate the weight off of your shoulders. Dave Ramsey's Baby Steps is a model to completely obliterate debt, that you have no debt in your life, not even a home. And some people will say, oh, it's so difficult to pay off this large sum amount of money. But if you're able to pay off your debt and you're able to keep gazelle intensity throughout the whole entire process of the baby steps, and you're able to make some sacrifices, work a little bit harder, but also remember, since you're not in debt, you're not underwater anymore. You can have some fun with your money, right? These baby steps encourage eliminating or obliterating debt, but the more intensity you put into completing these baby steps, the more likely you will have succeeding and fully being debt free. And it will take a lot less time than you could think or imagine. All right, so baby step six, paying off your home entirely. A lot of the times we get a 30-year mortgage. Dave Ramsey does not recommend a 30-year mortgage. He doesn't care about, and he doesn't care if you get a sweet interest rate deal on it, and that might be important to some people. But usually, if you can't afford your home and you're really willing to just have a lower interest rate to pay off the home in double the time, you probably can't afford the home. So if people are on baby step 6, or if they're looking to purchase a home, the way Dave Ramsey's perspective on buying a home is, one, this is the highest tier, to pay it in cash. If you can pay off your home in cash, that's what Ramsey recommends. He realizes that's not practical for everyone else, so he asks that have your offering 20% of the home's total cost. And the reason he suggests at least 20% is so we can avoid something called PMI, or personal mortgage insurance. Avoid that insurance. For those of you who own homes, you know that the PMI bill is very high. If you can avoid that, you can save a lot of money and pay off your home faster. If you're able to use the money you will put towards your PMI and attack the principal of your home, you're able to pay your home off faster. So Dave Ramsey recommends paying off your home in 10 years. So you would see how much extra money you would need to put towards the principal each month to see how you could pay your house off in 10 years. And after 10 years, you have a paid off house, you're debt free, you have an emergency fund, you have a savings account, you have your retirement set up, and now it's time to get to baby step number 7. So, baby step number 7, I would say, is the most influential, most inspiring baby step of them all. The reason Dave Ramsey wants us to be in control of our money, and he has a systematic way of attacking debt, a systematic way of building wealth, is so that we can give and give like no other. We can build wealth and give like no other. The Bible tells us that we should not be the borrower, but we should be the lender. So I believe Dave Ramsey follows this same principle, right? If you're out of debt, if everything is covered, imagine the possibilities you can do for the world. And this is where we see people who are into philanthropy. And it doesn't mean you have to go on that same level where you're giving millions and millions of dollars away, but you can ensure that your children will be taken care of. You can ensure that you're leaving an inheritance for your grandchildren. You can ensure that your children can be well off. If you're willing, you can pay for your children's wedding. You can pay for your children's first home. But this is where you need to build your wealth. Really sit down with a Smart Investor Pro when you're at this baby step. Invest your money not just in a savings account at this point. Saving is good, but now it's time to really bring your net worth up, right? So, besides retirement, this is where you're able to invest in other things. And I forgot to mention, after baby step number 3, you're doing baby steps number 4, 5, 6 simultaneously or at the same time. Investing in retirement, you're saving for your children's college fund, you're paying off your home early, and you're building wealth and giving. Baby steps 4, 5, and 6 simultaneously. Then, when you get to baby step number 7, you're able to give like no one else. So, say you have a friend in the church or you have a family member who's really struggling. Dave Ramsey does not suggest that you give people money, because giving people money will not help their situation. Dave Ramsey says, whatever you give money to, there will be more of whatever they currently are. So if someone has bad habits with their money, just giving them money is going to increase their bad habits with money. But you can help solve small problems in your family members' lives, in your friends' lives, and even in your community's lives. So say, for example, something happens at your friend's car breaks down, right? You can gift them paying for their mechanic so that they're able to get to work. Or if your friend is really struggling and they're working in a place where they need a car, you can give them $1,000 car. It's something small. It's not a huge. It is a huge gesture, but it's not over the top. It's not too much. Able to be so generous because your money is not controlling you. You are controlling your money. And Dave Ramsey puts it like this: at the end of the day, all of our finances are the Lord's anyway, right? The money is not ours. We are just the managers. The Lord has given us wealth. The Lord has given us health. The Lord has given us our jobs and our income. We are just managing those things and allocating it. But the best way Dave Ramsey feels to allocate, and I also co-sign, is to do these baby steps. So really get in tune, friends. Commit to the baby steps. Don't do it half-ish. Don't save baby step-ish. Be fully committed to the process. Be willing to set aside a few years, sitting down, eating rice and beans a few times a week, not going on vacation for a year or two, to really get your finances in control so that you're able to prosper. And I can't wait to see how many people are inspired and how many people begin to start attacking their debt and becoming debt free and begin giving like no other. And if we're all able to give like no other, the world will be a better place. And this is where I believe then God tells us heaven, bringing heavens down to the earth, not just financially, but the act of giving, the selflessness. How much selfless people will be when their finances are not tied, where they're not fighting tooth and nail to pay bill for bill, where they're not going living life paycheck to paycheck. If you enjoyed this video, if it blessed you in any way, please like, share, or subscribe. I appreciate your time. But for now, I'll let you guys get into it. God bless.